My husband and I have been married for 8 years. Our oldest son is 6 years old and he brings us so much joy. We have always wanted to have another child, but for the past few years we have been very busy with work. It wasn't until I turned 34 that our careers gradually became stable. Our financial situation had also improved. So, we decided to have another child. We were very excited about this decision and looked forward to the arrival of our child. One night, with a pregnancy test in my hand, I told my husband the news of my pregnancy. Our faces were beaming with happiness. We decided to tell our family. The relatives expressed their blessings and joy. We also went to the hospital regularly for prenatal checkups. My belly slowly grew bigger and we looked forward to the arrival of our child even more. On the 3rd day of my son's birth, I left the hospital. For the next 5 days, I kept feeling a little unwell, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. My son rarely cried after birth and spent most of his time sleeping quietly. One night, I was sitting down to feed the baby. Shortly after I sat down, I suddenly felt a little lightheaded. I realized that I might not be feeling well, so I called my husband to come and carry the baby while I tried to go to bed to rest for a while. When I stood up, blood was running down my leg, which caused me to panic. My husband immediately called the emergency number and quickly helped me to the couch. He tried to calm me down and told me that an ambulance was on its way. I was filled with fear and despair. I began to cry loudly, and the chaos of my emotions made it impossible for me to control myself. My life was slowly fading away, and the feeling was overwhelmingly frightening. For me, the time seemed to become very long. Finally, I heard the siren of an ambulance. The paramedics carried me to the ambulance. My consciousness was fading. My husband held my hand tightly and kept giving me encouragement. When I closed my eyes, a wonderful sight appeared in my vision. I saw 3 gorgeous angels appear above me. They were wearing bright white robes. These 3 angels slowly began to approach me, and their presence made me feel peaceful. They were so close to me that I could reach out and touch their light. It was an experience beyond reality. The doctor kept trying to keep me awake. The doctor told me to hold on. After I opened my eyes, the angelic figures faded away. I was moved to a small room in the hospital. Slowly, I closed my eyes, confident that the doctors would do all they could to help me, despite not being sure what would happen next. The moment I closed my eyes, my thoughts became calm. Suddenly, an angel appeared in front of me. He placed his hand on my shoulder, and his gaze revealed an endless love. The angel asked me, "Do you choose to leave with me, or stay here?" I knew that if I chose to leave, it would mean that I would probably leave this world forever. At this point, I thought of my family. I knew that my leaving would bring them hurt and sadness, but they would start their lives over. They will slowly heal and find a new direction. The pain now is too much for me to bear, and I just want immediate relief. I chose to leave with the angels. The decision wasn't easy, but I knew it was the best choice I could make at the moment. The angel gently led me and carried my soul out of the hospital. I felt my pain fade away, and I was no longer trapped in the confines of my physical body. I felt free and at peace. The angel moved quickly upward with me. Although I didn't know where he was taking me, I believed he would take me to a better place, a place where there would be no more pain and worry. After flying for some time, a majestic building appeared in front of me, and it was the destination we were about to reach. The building was a rectangular shape surrounded by thick pillars. I saw 3 angels flying toward that place. I had seen them in the ambulance and was overwhelmed to see them again. I followed them and entered the interior of the building. I found the building to be a huge library. Inside the library, I met other people. I greeted them as if I had met a group of old friends and family. We shared our life stories with each other. The place is full of friendly atmosphere. In this library, we can learn a lot of knowledge that we can't learn on Earth. I was immersed in the pleasure of reading and learning. I came to the back door of the library, where a beautiful country road appeared. Flowers were blooming on both sides of the road. I followed the path all the way forward. After a while, a house appeared in front of my eyes. I heard laughter coming from the house, and I noticed a group of people strolling in the garden. I noticed that the door of the house was open. So I went inside. Upon entering, I immediately noticed that the room was filled with small children. Each child radiated innocence and their smiles were infectious. The house seemed to be a paradise for children. I could see the children playing in their own world. As I walked into another room, a child suddenly held my hand. In another corner, I saw a woman holding a baby. Her eyes revealed her endless love for her child as she sang a lullaby softly. Just at that moment, a grandmother came up to me. She smiled at me and gently asked, "Are you ready to stay here?" I thought for a moment and shook my head, indicating that I wasn't sure. She seemed to see right through me. In fact, she said softly, "You already have the answer inside you. You don't want to leave your child." Her words touched the softest part of my heart. I replied softly, "You are right, I don't want to leave my children. I can't imagine my life without them." The grandmother smiled and nodded as she continued, "A mother's love is a great force that gives us endless courage and strength. Your children need your company and care, and you will be more happy and satisfied as a result." I smiled at the grandmother and said, "Thank you for your understanding and encouragement. I have found the answer, and I will choose to go back." The grandmother gently held my hand and said, "You have made a wise choice and your child will appreciate your decision." The grandmother gave me a hug. Then she whispered, "Bless you, the child will bring you more happiness and joy." After leaving the house where the grandmother was, I continued to explore this magical place. I walked through a garden and a familiar face suddenly appeared in front of me. It was my cousin. In June 2013, I lost my cousin, and it was a heartbreaking moment. She was only 31 years old when she left us. She was a premature baby, so her health was never in good shape. Even though her health was never stable, she still had a generous and kind heart. One of my most vivid memories of her is her passion for animals. She always treated these helpless creatures with love. She often volunteered at animal shelters, doing what she could to help animals in need of care and shelter. This passion makes her happy. In January 2013, she found out that she had cervical cancer, which was certainly a heavy blow to her. Doctors performed a hysterectomy to control the disease. However, the cancer spread very quickly and put a huge strain on her life. By March, the doctors told her the disheartening news that even after chemotherapy and radiation, her chances of survival were not good. Despite her unpromising health, she continued to go to volunteer work every week. During an operation to rescue a stray dog, she was bitten by a stray dog. As her body resistance was already weak, this wound quickly became infected and led to the development of sepsis. On June 17, 2013, she left us. Her death was a great shock to all of us. It happened so suddenly that her family was completely unprepared for the funeral and had to postpone it for 2 weeks. Although my cousin and I had not been in touch for a long time, we had a very happy time, which made me feel especially sorry for her loss. My cousin grew up on a farm that used to be owned by my grandfather. Later, my uncle bought the farm and raised his 2 daughters there. I used to go to her house to play. Although I was 13 years older than my cousin, we really enjoyed playing together. We had many happy times on that farm. We ran in the fields together and chased dragonflies in the fields. As we got older, our contact gradually became less and less. The various responsibilities and busyness of life left us with little time to communicate. Now we surprisingly met again in this beautiful place. We hugged each other. I said to her excitedly, "I never forgot you, I always miss you." Now we have a chance to meet again, and it is so wonderful. My cousin shared her happy life here. She told me that this place can be a soothing and relaxing paradise for the soul. We talked for a long time here. Finally, my cousin reminded me that it was time to go back. When I opened my eyes again, I found my husband standing beside me, his eyes full of worry. I knew I had made my choice to return to Earth and get on with my life. A few days later, I left the hospital. When I returned home, I saw my little boy lying in his crib with an angelic smile on his face. At that moment, I felt an indescribable happiness. Only a mother can truly understand this satisfaction and joy. I want my son to grow up healthy. I was willing to give everything for him, to give him love and care. 3 months later, my husband suddenly asked me, "You seem to be a different person, more mature." However, I didn't answer his question, I just smiled a little. Over the years, I have learned to remain silent, especially about experiences that cannot be explained. I know that this story is too crazy for other people, and I wouldn't believe such a thing if I hadn't experienced it myself. What I went through was a supernatural experience. It was a personal growth and insight that I can't fully express in words. I have learned to remain calm and determined as I look at life's challenges with a more mature mind. Although I may have been like an overgrown child in the past, now, I am willing to take on more responsibility,